preliminary budget. Please take notice that the preliminary budget for the town of Stafford for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2023 has been completed and filed in the office of the town clerk at 8903 Route 237, Stafford, New York, where it is available for inspection by any interested persons during regular business hours. Further notice is hereby given that the Town Board of Stafford, New York will meet and review said preliminary budget and hold a public hearing thereon at the Town Hall, 8903 Route 237, Stafford, New York, on Monday, November 14th, 2022 at 7 p.m., at which time all interested persons will be heard in favor or against any items contained therein pursuant to Section 108 of the town law. The proposed salaries of the following Town of Stafford officials are as follows. Supervisor, $14,560. Councilman, 4 each, $4,000. Town Justice, 2 each, $25,740. Highway Superintendent, $67,500. Town Clerk, Tax Collector, $36,000. If there are any questions, comments, now's the time to do that.
I have some.
Yeah.
My first one is, why couldn't we get a copy of that budget to look over leisurely? I had to come in and just sit and go through it. Why couldn't I have gotten a copy of that?
Well, the rules and regulations, I guess, didn't permit it.
I guess what rules and regulations, because all the other towns give them out. Some even post it on their websites for people to look at. Could I get a copy now to look over?
When it's approved?
After it's approved? Okay, well then I guess I took some notes for my questions. Why a $9,000 jump for the town clerk that said she was going to save us money this year?
Let's see, where are we This is wages you're talking about now.
Right.
You can get an increase in wages and also save the taxpayers money in other ways too.
Okay. How are we saving? I know last year it said we were gonna save on her doing the taxes, yet we paid her $5,000 to do the taxes, yet we didn't pay the county, so that really wasn't a savings, that was just changing who we paid.
Right.
So it's really not a savings, right? Okay, I just wanted to,
Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat the logic that I shared in the budget, during the budget? All right, so if you go back in the history of what we've been paying our town clerk, we started out with the previous, I think we were at 32. Then the first year she was in, it was 36. Then when we had to pay to have the county do it, we dropped it down to 32 again? No, we didn't. No, we didn't take all of it. We took part of it back. So when it rolled around to this, we have all systems fully functional. The taxes were completed on time, and we got compliments back from the county. Hunting licenses are fully functional, marriage licenses are fully functional. We don't have to have the judges come in and try to correct them because they get in trouble if those are incorrect. So they did that. Dog licenses are, they're not caught up because we have to do a new survey because the farmed out survey didn't actually go that well. Plus we had where we found a whole pile of checks, rabies certificates, basically pushed in the corner in the vault, so that was never caught up. So there were quite a few items that were systems that were broken down. Barb, are there any that aren't caught up now besides filing? Because filing is a thing in itself.
What's that?
All of our systems, our tax system, our dog license system, our
The marriage, the hunting, the dog as best as it can be at this point.
yep.
Everything's go.
All right. Then as far as savings, you raised the point about the county fee. The county fee would have been $8,000 if we hadn't done it ourselves, and I got that from Scott German. We also didn't have to, there were years that the assistant clerk budget was expended by half year, so there were savings there also.
Okay, we have 2 clerks now though, right? 2 part-time clerks? What do they get paid? Do they get paid by the hour or are they salary?
Oh,
What do they get paid hourly? Because I think in the budget that I wrote down, it was just a lump sum,
it is on some of the budget, but it's like $13.50 an hour,
$13.50 an hour.
I believe.
And just to finish up, if you recall, I said it's not an apples-to-apples comparison because of all the things that were going on, monies expended and systems that were behind. I think that pretty much covers what I said at the budget meeting.
We went through earlier on the recreation department part of it. We're gonna use the old numbers from last year. Because there's no use in increasing it because there was no increase from the year before. So we can just use the old numbers.
Well, the other thing is, if you look up the numbers that GAM provides, our town clerk is in the lower 50% of what town clerks are paid across the 13 municipalities. I believe 8th.
What's the amount that some of the salaries have gone up compared to last year? You mentioned what they were proposed now. What's the increase over last year?
Don't we usually do a wage summary? Because I don't have them memorized.
Oh, I don't need it.
Yeah, but that's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
So shouldn't you have the answer?
I'm sorry, can I repeat the question? I'm sorry, I didn't get it. What was your
What's
question?
the increase this year over last year?
Okay, for town board, 0. For municipal court, but this is, don't forget, this is the total amount, not what they're paid out. So you could have where, let's say, the judges have a different mix between their senior clerk and their junior clerk. The senior clerk gets paid more per hour.
So much for the courts then?
Yep.
Okay. And that is?
Yep. Supervisor, 0. Auditor, 0, but that's a farmed out service. Let's see.
See, if we had a
Assessment.
copy of that, it would be so much easier to follow along with you.
Yeah. But we would like to stay within the law also.
There's no law that says you can't hand out beforehand.
Copy of it?
It
Yeah.
says you can't hand them out?
Section 108, public hearing. And that a copy of the preliminary budget is available at the office of the town clerk, or it may be inspected by any interested person during office hours. So that's what we're following.
Okay.
You've done that, right?
Well, I had another appointment I had to go to, so I took quick notes, but it's just gonna make my questions a whole lot longer tonight, but that's okay.
Supervisor, 0. Town clerk, 9.66.
9.66 what, percent?
Percent. From 32 to 36.
And then the tax collector, she gets paid that too. How much did that go up?
I think that's right, if my memory serves me right, I can find it in here.
5%.
Thank you.
From 5,000 to 5,250.
Assessor actually went down, where is it here again?
From 25,635 to
To
20,000.
20,000.
Do we have an assessor now?
Yes. Not officially, but yes, we do.
Just one assessor.
That's part of today's agenda.
Are they gonna have a helper?
I don't know. I don't know if she's gonna do it alone or,
No, she didn't ask, we asked that question at the interview.
not that I know.
So that's the budgeted amount then that you expect to pay for that position then.
Yeah.
Where's our code and zoning? So I'm trying to scan this quick.
We got the safety inspection.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. Safety inspector is
It's the same,
zoning?
it's code and zoning.
Yep.
The pay is the same, it's two different positions.
2.58%,
Up?
yes.
Do we have another one?
Not yet.
And then zoning, same thing, 2.58%.
Started early.
And then, let's see, who'd I miss? Covered everybody here.
Highway
Covered all the
superintendent,
office.
did that
What's
stay? Highway superintendent?
Let's see. Knew I missed one. There we go, 3.84. Do I have them all?
I haven't, we got most of them.
Do you want all my questions regarding the budget, or are we just gonna go through salaries? We going through one at a time?
Well,
I didn't understand, what is the town hall category? It's like contractual, 30,000 this year, going up to 38. Is that like the cleaner? What else
No,
would that be
no.
under?
town hall
Town hall.
contractual is, utilities, obviously, and whatever else might
Electric,
place.
gas, repairs,
Repairs to the building.
Photocopy,
lease.
lease, all the computers, service contract on the phones and the computers,
Security?
mats,
We have security here, right?
yes.
As for court or town hall?
The whole building.
Well, yeah, it pays for alarm systems, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's part of the town hall money.
Yes. Any type of repairs,
Likewise.
And so what are those numbers last year and this year? Since we don't have anything to look at.
Where is it? What page you got?
Went from 30 to 36.
Town hall went from 30 to 38.
30,000 to 38,000? So what are the increases due to?
The electric went up, your gas is gonna go up.
Gonna go up.
I mean, it's just no different in your household, all that stuff's going up. It's the same thing here. Lights,
we need
electric. repair.
upgrades on our phone system, upgrades on our internet interface.
Wasn't the phone system just done a couple years ago?
Yeah.
But there's still physical parts of it. The service was sent from one vendor to the other, but the actual hard wires and boards downstairs remained the same.
You'll have a,
That's all done though, didn't you pass that to have done a couple months ago?
yeah, and it's been done.
And it's been done.
Yeah, you'll have something in your, in the bills today for that.
I noticed under printing and mailings, it went from 0 up to 2,000.
Newsletter.
But Barb's not mailing those out unless you ask.
This year, we're doing 2 of them this year.
Twice a year.
Yeah, but did you mail them? You didn't mail them unless
Not this
people
year.
asked. Oh,
Not this year because it wasn't in the budget,
Right.
so I add money. to
oh,
the
okay, so
budget.
next year you're gonna mail 'em.
23,
Oh, okay, so they will be mailed next year.
yes.
2 out of the 4, right?
I only do one in the spring, one in the fall.
Oh, so both.
Just 2.
All right.
Yeah, so 1,000 each is what it's gonna be.
All right, I misunderstood when you said you would have them on. It wasn't a mix, it was a progression.
If there are no more questions, I close the public hearing.
Oh,
Well, go ahead.
oh, I'm not done yet. We're gonna be here a while. The budget officer, who is our budget officer? Is that you, Bob?
Yep.
Okay. Assessor we did. Sorry. Had to take, records management, what is that? There was a line on there for records management.
Well, that would be part of your job.
Is it considered what I do with keeping the records and
Registrar of Vital
yeah,
Statistics.
just keeping them in.
That's not a separate line
Retain
on the budget? I thought there was a separate line on the budget that said records management.
That's for the codification service where we have the town code updated for any of the items we do, and they also recommend updates if anything changes at the state level.
How much is that this year? Because I noticed for like the last few years, there's been nothing.
Yeah, and we're
Because
now
they were-
catching up on our codification.
Because there
There's
was
one more
nothing done.
system that was broken down.
Do we have a new attorney? I noticed that fee went up.
No,
We're gonna pay this one more?
based on what we paid this year, yeah.
Okay. Is he gonna do codes now? Is he gonna go go back to code violations? Are we gonna take people back to court? For code violations if we need to?
I think we need to, and the code enforcement officer can prosecute his own complaints in the court if necessary.
Oh,
Then according to
cool.
you guys months ago, you said we had some complaints about two houses, and you said you couldn't afford attorney fees, because it wasn't in the budget to pay for a lawyer to fight these codes. And that came out of you guys' idea. So now you're saying the court enforcement, he can do his own court?
He can,
If
it's a
he
choice.
can.
It's
So why wasn't it done before then? Before you said you had to have a lawyer present, and you couldn't afford the lawyer, because it wasn't in the budget.
Well, I can't answer.
You don't want to say it.
All right, okay. Okay.
What is an
One of
inter,
the, no, I have an answer for your
okay.
question. I also have a place you can look for what the applicable court cases are and what the applicable rules are. And I believe this was done by, what's the name for the higher level of the court system, but it's an administrative section. Anyways, what this is zoning enforcement in towns and villages.
okay,
Now, I believe one of our judges attended one of these seminars, and it was covered but not researched that it might be possible that we have part of our code prosecuted by our code enforcement officer, just like a police officer enforces a ticket. But what I was going to say is that when you get done reading through this, it's about 80 pages end to end.
is that online?
Yes.
What website is that at?
Just look up zoning enforcement in town and village courts, New York, and it will come up on Google.
Okay, I think I was in there,
Sure.
okay.
Part of the problem in this presentation is when it talks about a local court, sometimes it's not very specific about it. The other item is that in here it has your prosecution done by the town attorney. Now, what I'd like to do, like I said, is get a workshop together with us and our judges, see if this is the presentation they went to, and then work out where we go from there as far as how it's laid out. The other thing that comes up in here is that the state is calling code violations misdemeanors, which kind of pushes you into, it's not a violation, it's a misdemeanor, and you'll need an attorney for that. But if we went through and said which ones are violations, especially in the zoning law, that may be one way we can do that. But all this needs to be first run through the judges, then run through the attorney. But I wouldn't go, and when it comes right down to it, we did a minimal budget last year on attorney's fees, and we figured we would have not only pent-up code enforcement, we might have to have some research done by attorneys, so it may be a very active year for that. So we actually proposed a little bit higher, and Jimmy cut us down to 18. If I recall the meeting correctly. All right.
I think that's all my budget questions. Oh, planning board and zoning boards. Did their meetings, did their salaries go up?
I don't think so. Planning board might have. CBA didn't.
And there's no ones that have the copy of the preliminary budget right here. There are $1,064,000. Nobody else has any answers or anything to offer.
Let's see, planning went up from 4260 to 5160.
That's for the whole board,
Yes.
okay. What about zoning?
Zero.
On the budget, the other thing I saw, I guess I didn't realize we had, but, celebrations, 1,500 for tree lighting. I think it's great we do celebrations, which only brings me to, are we going to redo our bicentennial now that we have a historian? Because I know it got canceled because of COVID.
I'm not aware of any
Who
plans.
does that? Who ran that? Who run the bicentennial stuff? Do you know who was running it when the Historical Society? Historical?
I was named the chair of it.
Yeah, that was primarily through the Historical Society, not through the Historic.
So is that something the Historical Society would come back to you and have it fall under celebrations if they wanted to do something? They would come back, so the tree lighting, I didn't go to it last year, Dale did. But I know the tree kept not lighting, and Steve was gonna fix that plug that was shorting out. Did that, it was a breaker or something?
I isolated the one string of lights that was causing that. Once that string of lights was removed, the
It
tree
stopped,
stayed on.
oh, it stopped
nonstop.
breaking, okay, so, okay.
Because what they did is they had people contribute, rather than buying new, and somebody contributed a dog.
Oh, okay, so the lights are all set.
Yes.
So what is this $1,500 for? It's for like
Okay. Yeah.
refreshments and stuff like that,
Right.
entertainers, if they have them. Okay. Well, that's all I had because, I've got more questions later, but that's all it for the budget.
Hey, Bob,
Yeah.
at this point, can you tell us if the levy's gonna change and by how much?
Coming up soon.
Right off the top of my head, I get it, it's pretty much the same. I don't think
So everybody's
How much?
assessments have gone up, so you still have to be paying more.
It's different.
Oh, that's a different one?
That's not what she's talking
Oh,
about.
yeah, yeah. Right,
Okay?
right. Thanks, Barb.
Well,
I was thinking something else.
anyway.
Seems I recall some of the estimates Heidi came up with were over $1. Was it $1.12, $1.20, something like that?
4.
Yeah.
So we're up over $1.
That's our taxes are going from .89 to $1 something?
Yes.
Plus the increase in assessments, so. And your levy.
When does that take effect? In January?
It will.
Is that like another public hearing on the tax levy or no?
No.
No. Right now, and last year, we were the third lowest in the county.
Yeah, I know.
So
We hear it. We're the third lowest, but we're still, we also are probably number one in how much money we have in a money market accounts. We have over 500,000.
Backup
I
money.
just don't get it.
Well, according to the state controller's office, you should have between 3 and 6 months reserve.
Okay,
If you
well,
look
let's
at our
stop
budget,
buying
it's
stuff.
3 to 6 months reserve. When COVID, when sales tax was wiped out, we still functioned, because we had a reserve.
It didn't go down that much though.
We had the
125,000,
reserve.
I know. But we went from like 7 down to 5. so, but, okay. So our taxes are gonna go up to 1.24, roughly,
Don't quote me on that, it's
Roughly.
over $1,
It's over $1.
yes.
So if the only increases we're looking at are town clerk, tax collector, code zoning and highway, when it comes to salaries, then that's a big increase for those increases in salaries. What else has gone up?
Or what else has gone down on the revenue side?
True, so can you answer that?
Yeah.
Well, everything has gone up, John. You ought to know that as a homeowner.
But Bob, that's just a broad answer.
Yeah,
I want specifics on the budget. What has gone up? I mean, is it contractual items? Is it salaries?
well, we don't know. We have to kinda look into our crystal ball.
I've done this, Bob. It's not an I don't know game. It may be on the revenue side, but not on the,
Well, we budget for X number of dollars and hopefully the spending in any one particular category doesn't go above that.
How about if we take it back away from the fire department and put them back down to 285?
Well, the public hearing for that is next. If we're done with this at 7:31. Genesee County notice of public hearing, legal notice, public hearing, Town of Stafford fire protection. Public notice is hereby given that the Town of Stafford will hold a public hearing on the contract for fire protection with the Stafford Fire Department Incorporated at the Stafford Town Hall at 8903 Route 237 on November 14th, 2022 at 7:15 p.m. At such hearing, any persons may be heard in favor of or against any item contained therein. Pursuant to Section 184 of the Town Law of the State of New York, said contract shall commence on January 1st, 2023 for a one-year period, and said contract shall terminate December 31st, 2023. In consideration of furnishing aid and the use of their apparatus, the Stafford Fire Department shall be paid the sum of $406,000 by the order of the Town Board of the Town of Stafford dated October 26, 2022, Barbara Radley, Stafford Town Clerk. Any questions for the fire department?
Want me to go first? It's not on the,
What made their budget go double this year over years prior? Why did we go from 200,000 to 400,000? Has their expenses gone up that much?
Revenue.
There's no revenue in it. I'm Jamie Call, president of the Stafford Fire Department. And everything's gone up. The budget's the same as last year. We haven't changed that. We're looking at, which everybody here is looking at, an increase of fuel of about 120%. You know, a gallon of diesel fuel's gone up that much. Insurance has gone up. Fire trucks, you go to buy a fire engine right now, a bare bones fire engine, because I just was part of buying one for another agency, went up about 50%. Things are going through the roof. The gear we wear is up. Everything's up high. There's no more revenue. The state put their kibosh on the raffles we do, because I think they wanted to put us in their casinos or something like that. There was really no
No, they're doing it in Batavia.
Well, we were told specifically to not do it anymore. Whether somebody else decides to do it, I'm not gonna get thrown in jail or be arrested
Doing a
for.
Corvette raffle in Batavia as of right now.
Well, maybe, if you wanna talk to the state about that, you can. I'm not gonna be part of that.
So you're saying you can't do any raffles at all whatsoever?
We cannot do any raffles that involve outside the area. We're allowed to do the only raffles we're allowed to do involve our town, Genesee County, and contiguous towns.
Okay, so
That's it.
you can't do like a meat raffle? You
We
can?
do those things. We've tried chicken barbecues. We've tried
Yeah, you
things.
lost money on it, yeah, I
By
heard.
the time we get done, you're making $500. And the effort into it, what's your value of it? I mean, that's the other thing. Who's gonna do the work? The guys are doing enough work as it is, training, going to calls in the middle of the night. doing those type of things. And then you're gonna ask them on top of that to go and.
Other towns do it.
What towns?
Alpha just did it. Alpha had one last weekend. I went to it.
How much money?
They made a lot of money. That place was packed.
Good for them.
They did 3 50/50s and they were all over $450
Good
each.
for them. I mean, we've
Well, I'm just
tried.
saying, you say you know,
Alva's membership's a lot larger than ours right now.
What is your membership now?
I'm not gonna guess off the top of my head. It's been a while since I looked at those numbers, so I would be guessing if I said that to you. I know our membership's down. We have a core group of active firefighters, EMS personnel, going to all the calls in town. You know, when you're sleeping good tonight, the alarm goes off, they're going out, they're doing those things. I mean, you can only ask so much of the people that are doing that, and you're gonna ask them to go out and earn more money for that, that's tough too. You know, they got their own jobs.
I was at the fire department back in the 70s, and I did the same thing. We did the carnival, we worked our butts off for the carnival, went to the fires, probably just as many fires and accidents and things as
Who
you
are
guys
you
are going
anyways?
to.
I identified myself, I'm sorry.
Pardon?
What's your name?
Dale Worthington.
I started out doing my family when I was a little kid, bagging, so I understand that quite a bit. But times have changed, it's gotten very tough, and we had a great thing going for a long time. And at the end of the day, I feel bad though, because somebody, after we lost our carnival, the Corvette raffle, somebody came up and go, shame on you for losing that. Nobody ever said thank you for making all that money, thank you for keeping our taxes down, shame on you for losing that. We didn't lose it. The state came down on us hard, whether a reason or not, I don't know. But those raffles, that Corvette raffle required you to sell tickets downstate, Florida, California, all those places to make the money we were making. It'll never happen again because the laws are in place that don't allow that.
I have a question on your insurance. It's like $60,000 for insurance?
No. Well, between vehicles, buildings, and all that, yes.
How many vehicles are there? Mondays are packed for me. I can't get over there and come to your meetings.
And what was your name again, ma'am?
Kathy Worthington.
Well, we have 2 engines, a tanker, 2 squads, a chief's vehicle.
I think that chief vehicle thing come up in last month's or the month before discussion. He's allowed to drive that? Is that a personal vehicle for him?
It's his toolbox. It's in the middle of the night when he has to go somewhere, and he lives over on the west end of the town, and if there's an accident over on the west end of the town, he can get there quicker. He's got his
Right.
toolbox with him. He's got air packs, he's got tools in that vehicle.
But I think somebody noticed it like Sunday, somewheres or other, on a Sunday.
We keep it in,
It was all
we keep it in
over.
the county.
Actually, that came up, we're gonna discuss a little bit later, the emergency management, and they were taking it in for service.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm still on this Stafford budget here. Okay. Truck fund,
Must be the garage is open
So-
on Sunday.
a truck fund, like 181,000? I mean, I guess, what are you gonna do with the 406,000? Are you gonna buy more land? Let's just get the, right out here. I mean, why does the fire department need more land? You got 78 acres.
Where'd the land come from?
I don't know, you're buying more land.
We are not buying more land.
They're not buying it? You did a land separation and,
What land?
What are you looking at me for?
because Bob, you did a land I was at the planning board last month before, and they said that you were
You know
doing.
the circumstances behind that?
Oh, I don't know, it said land separation
Well, you're
in the fire
complaining about
department, and they said the fire.
All the bullshit that
Bill-
comes out of that orifice is astounding, you know that?
The
She's
Bill,
not- she's not complaining, she's
Bill
asking a
Manolo
question.
said
All right,
that
I'll correct
it
that.
was,
So we realized that we were on our neighbor's land with our parking lot and our septic system, and we rectified that. We made a mistake, and our neighbor allowed us to purchase it at below market value to rectify that situation that would got us out of trouble.
okay, well, see, nobody
where the
said that,
flag-
so,
The land actually, where our flagpole is in that monument, was on our neighbor's land. It was an error.
Well, that's the question she was asking, and he gets all upset over it. She
Well,
asked a
I-
question, she's not
and,
complaining about it.
Bill Van Alst
Yes,
was
she is. She was
questioned.
asking about it.
I just,
So we're
as
not
a
buying any more.
taxpayer,
We're not looking at investments. Again, a average fire engine right now is $800,000-$900,000. They've gone so much.
okay, so this
And-
goes,
And if you put, I know our neighbors are looking at aerial trucks, those have gone up like almost, probably $1.5 to $2 million. Our hands are tied when it comes to those things. Once you put fire against something or emergency services, it changes things. They are built very well, they're built to well standard.
Is that money up front, or is that you spread that out over a few years to pay for it?
Depends on how you can do it. If you can pay up front for a vehicle, you usually get a savings of anywhere between 5 and 20%. Depends on the manufacturer.
Because I keep hearing this budget, and I keep hearing generality. Prices are going up, prices, we understand that. But I'd like to hear some figures. I mean, you operated on 200 and some thousand one year, and the next year it's gotta be 400 and some thousand.
Because they realized with the
Did it
town.
go up that much? Everything, have you added figures together to show where it went from 200 to $400,000 to run that fire
It
department
was
this next year?
almost 300,000 to 400,000. It's not a 200,000. It was 285 and change up to 406. And the town board came over, we went through all the numbers for the vehicles and the replacement schedules, and we realized we were behind the eight ball on it. We were not gonna have enough money to do a replacement schedule. You can't run these things more than 20 years. You can't. It's just, by the time you're done, you're gonna put, they just don't last that much. The corrosion factors, the chemicals New York State puts on the roads now, I mean, they don't last. If you go to refurb something, you're gonna spend $200,000-$300,000 on it done, so then you have a vehicle that's 25 years old that's costing that much more. I'm not putting that much money into my personal car.
Do you mind, because I have a pretty good memory of the workshop.
Mhm.
So if I recall, the main combination truck that they were looking at is
So-
somewhere between 800,000 and $1 million.
Yep, and we're looking
Trying
at,
to windage where?
we have a tanker right now that's not gonna get replaced. The next vehicle, the next one to get replaced is gonna be a combination of those two to not keep that rolling stock on. Because again, even if the whole town of Stafford got water at this point, there's still some key areas, big structures that the hydrant system wouldn't keep up with. So you still need to keep tankers in the area. And we also have a mutual aid agreement with our surrounding towns. I'm not saying we spend our money to support our surrounding towns, that's not what we're doing, we're supporting ourselves, but we go back and forth with them also. There's other towns that have tankers, we have tankers, we share back and forth, as we do with other services we provide.
One of the comparisons I made when I looked at the budget your first year on coming to the taxpayers, which was around 300,000, and this year's. If you simply take Firematics EMS, so that's primarily training on that, isn't it?
Firematics, EMS is training, equipment, again,
All right.
equipment's ridiculous.
So that went from 90,000 to 120,000. There was the truck fund that was being, if you look at the first year, you had 25,000 in the truck fund you were asking for. Prior to that, when you had a carnival going on, we were shipping over 75,000 from the town for your truck fund.
Correct.
So you were already under 75,000 and you were falling behind. Every year you stayed around 300,000.
Correct.
So then we did the workshop, reviewed the 6 to 4 truck. One of the good points is that if you look at what it costs to equip, the town highway department has about $1.2 million worth of equipment. The fire company has $1.2 million equipment. When Steve turns around to sell a truck, he gets 60,000 for it. When you turn around to sell a truck, what do you get for it?
About less than that, it's ridiculous. There's not a resale market in the fire truck business that's that lucrative.
So the first year of the high number was last year. And as we said last year, the reason why the number went high was because you were under budgeting in the previous years. And you put on top of that, you had a truck that you had to emergency replace because of load issues. So to me, when you look across every other account, most of them had to go down for you to stay within this. So when I look to press you guys for options, all these other accounts, there's nothing left there. So unless we change the law on how we turn over equipment, because that is mandated by the law, isn't it?
NFPA.
All right.
Fire Protection Association.
Unless we change how long we can keep equipment, and that's driven by your insurance companies, I don't see a whole lot of places to go here.
And part of the insurance, to get back to some other people said things, we've changed insurance. We're now with VFIS insurance. It's a cheaper rate, which means we can't have any carnivals with alcohol. We can't serve alcohol to the public anymore because they'll cancel us. So they already said that right up front. So we've looked at some other things. We go, well, we can't do that. We also go to our insurance company. Can we do that? Well, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, if somebody wants to come in and rent the property and provide their own insurance and serve their own alcohol, have at it. But nobody wants to anymore because it's liability on them.
Can I
And
ask
at the end
you
of the day,
about-
we're trying to reduce exposure to the town of Stafford residents also by doing that.
All right, so in rough figures, your budget went up about $125,000.
From 2 years ago.
Yes. Your EMS and truck fund went up about $205,000. So you're cutting back into your other expenses by about 80,000?
I'm trying to be leaner, but again, there's other mandates that, as we know with state and everything else, there's mandates every time you turn around, so. we're doing our
Well,
best.
you're talking about the two categories that have mandates. All right.
What income does the fire department have at all, any?
What's that?
What income does the fire department have? Are they getting any rent? Like
We get a
property?
little bit of rent from the farmland, and we're gonna keep the farmland. There's no thoughts of doing anything else to that land out there. And that's about it.
Works for Bill Gates.
I just question the fact that how is the Kiwanis in Batavia running a Corvette raffle and expecting to make themselves, I don't know, a couple $100,000?
How much are the tickets?
Pardon?
How much are the tickets?
Well, it's a limited number, and I think they're $100 a ticket. But so what?
So then you do that within the county.
You don't? Yeah, so? I mean, you can't say that the people didn't thank the fire department, because they made them $500,000 a year in a carnival, or better, on a Corvette. Which I agree, they sold tickets all over the world, actually, when you wanna get down to it, overseas. But there's gotta be a way. I go around with our tractor pulls, and I go around to these fire departments, and they're all running carnivals, and they're all running some kind of a fundraiser. They're all doing something to make some money, and this department doesn't do that. I can't understand how they can't. I know, I agree, you put on a chicken barbecue, you make a couple $300, you're not gonna get rich doing that.
Leroy Fire Department doesn't do a raffle, or doesn't do anything. Byron and Southbourne, I don't think do anything. Bethany sells a four-wheeler, occasionally, I don't know if they did one this year. Town of Batavia doesn't do anything.
Byron did a fundraiser to get their own ambulance,
Yeah, that was,
Was it a fundraiser or just a mailing to?
a fundraiser.
that was in conjunction with their bicentennial event.
And what was the fundraiser?
The tickets, I think, were $20 a piece. First prize won $1,000, I think, or $2,000. Second place won $500. Third place won $250. I don't know how much they made. They bought a lot.
No, we attempted to do a raffle this year, a legal one, and we had an issue with our permitting and got it too late in the year. So we're gonna try that again next year, a Queen of Hearts raffle, which is a card game that continues on. But again, that's very manpower intensive. Every week you gotta have to have people sell tickets every week. Those different things we're looking at. The state pushes for those ones. They like that one. Our hands are
I'll
tied to a
take
certain
it.
point, because again, at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to demean it, $2,000 isn't what we're looking for here. That's a pittance of what the whole thing is. And again, the manpower, everybody was down there, their wives work, they work, you know, the husband and wives work, and they're taking time out of their day to run a raffle. And it's very tough to ask people to do that when they're also working.
Jamie, if I give you my email, could you send me your budget? Could you?
You can get it through the town.
Town said they didn't have it.
I have that one sheet.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, you can get it through the town.
This? That's the budget?
That's it.
I mean, do you have like a financial thing on money
That's it.
in, money out? That's,
That's it.
We
I
send a
mean,
financial statement to the town every month of what we do.
We have those are just broken
Those
down
are-
further.
The trial balance is what you're talking about? And that's the budget, okay.
What's the percentage that our fire department helps the other fire departments and they help us?
I wouldn't have that off the top of my head. I really wouldn't, I'm sorry. I'd have to look those numbers up. I don't wanna guess anything like that, because that's not just I didn't run that,
Any further questions on the public hearing for the fire department?
I have one. I'm pretty new to this. I'm Patrick Casper. I live up here in corner of Buckley Road and Route 5. And I hear a lot of good ideas from people here. These raffles that we think we're gonna stir up all this income to help the fire department, who are we expecting to do that? Is it the volunteer firemen that aren't getting any money? So we're being critical of people who aren't getting paid? Is that what I'm hearing here? Because I'm just curious. Is that the truth of it?
that's 100% truth.
So, if everybody has all these grand and wonderful ideas to help the fire department out, it would seem to me that they should be the people who should help head it up, if they have the time to find fault with it.
There's applications available, or they're Monday nights.
Okay.
They're there right now. The core group right now is their trainer right now.
And I'll tell you what, my hat's off to you guys. I appreciate everything you do, and just for me, looking from the outside in, I don't think there's anybody here that's trying to take advantage of anything, and they're working their butts off for very little money. If I had been paid what you guys get paid to do what you do, I don't know if I could do it. I think I'd sell beef and farm. So my hat's off to you guys, appreciate everything you do. I'm just saying that. And don't get me wrong, I think people need to look into this and be involved. I'm happy for it. But I think we've got a pretty good core group here, I know every one of you guys. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Other towns, one of the things is we're trying to throw the fundraising on top of the people who are actually doing the firefight. But when you look at when you have successful fundraisers, whether it's for towns that want decorations, events, things like that, it's normally a support group. You know, community improvement group. I know Oakfield does their Labor Days, that's a separate group. When you go through the list of, Elba has a separate group that raise funds for their street decorations and things like that. Even in the world of politics, you usually have your fundraisers separated from your actual candidates, so they don't have to get dirty with that money. And maybe that's what we need to look at, so that those of us who are probably too old and fat now to be volunteer firemen could actually participate in the fundraising side and have it two separate groups.
I've done checking barbecues before. That's a lot of work for a little bit of money.
Well,
I know.
it's all weather related too.
It
You
sure
had a
is.
bad day, you just lost every little bit.
Mm-hmm. And you own all the chicken too.
We've got, fundraising's a double-edged sword though, because there's a lot of companies out there that'll do it for you also. But they don't tell you that they're taking probably 95% of the money they raise.
Yeah, right.
I get a call all the time. Every year I get a call from somebody downstate, and they're police and fire. They're looking to raise money for police and fire, and I really pay through it. I said, no, take my number off the list. It's just how it is. it's a tough thing, and I'm not being negative about fundraisers. We've tried a lot of them, we're more than welcome to try new ones, but you gotta have the people. And the last few years of our carnival, it came down to the point, there's about a group of 5 to 6 people setting the whole carnival up, and 5 to 6 people taking it down. And that gets old too. You know, there's a lot of planning involved in those things, and it's very tough, besides the car raffle and stuff, our whole carnival itself. It was a great thing we've had for years. As I said, it was started before I was a kid. My family was very heavily involved in it for years. You know, we donated a lot of equipment and time too to get those things. But times have changed.
Jamie, I'd be more than happy to start a committee to help fundraising. I've done it all my life with my job. So
Okay.
I will give you a call.
Yeah. Again, we're always willing to work those things out. But again, tonight's budget's, a couple $1,000s isn't gonna change what we're looking for tonight. That's what I was getting at.
All right. And I'm quoting Tim because we talked about it, because I said I'm just curious.
Chief.
Yeah,
Chief Barthel, okay.
yeah. I'm really getting ready for this meeting. I said, just curious, how long will it take us to get to where we've realigned ourselves, caught up on the trucks? And he said it was 2026. Is that a good?
It was 2026. We hope that the economy turns around here a little bit. Because that was a year to 2 years ago when we were talking that.
All right, so that's an old number already?
It is an old number already. You know, but we're trying to cut money where we can to, again, put the money where it needs to go. Not cutting money totally, but we're shuffling it around to put it towards the vehicles and things that are very expensive and fuel.
Now, when we used to send over the state minimum, right, from the town. And that
That's a little
was-
bit above that. We negotiated that. It was a little bit above that.
Yeah, and that was around 75, 80,000.
Started out at 65 years ago.
And again, if you want to look at what was the key error, dropping from 75,000 going into your equipment from the town alone, not counting that, to 25,000.
Got us behind the 8 ball.
These other towns that are putting on these, are they fire districts or are they regular volunteer organizations like
Well, there's
this?
fire protection districts and there's fire districts. A lot
Because
of-
I'm thinking of the idea, I like the idea of a committee, a separate committee, not hooked with the town board or the fire department, looking like the Alva's Betterment Committee that they have and all the other ones. But the hub of this town used to be the fire department. Everything that went on through the fire department. All the parties, Christmas party, anything that went on, but now they've they've separated themselves from the town to the point where you can't dare hardly even walk in a place because of insurance and this and that. So what good's that gonna do? Where are you gonna hold these functions and where are you gonna do that? There's no sense in going over there and spend thousands of dollars for an insurance policy to run a 2-day function. You're not gonna make nothing.
Sir, would you mind identifying yourself, please? Just-
Pardon?
Would you mind identifying yourself so I can have the...
Yeah, Gary Snell, yeah.
Okay.
I've been a
Snell?
fireman over there about 55 years.
Snell, you said?
Probably drove the fire truck more than anybody in this room. And like I said, I was very active in the fire department. And that was the hub of this town. Everything functioned around the fire department. Everybody got together, they all did this, but it's got separated. And I agree that we used to do the same thing. We had fire training that we had to go through, Niagara Mohawk and all that. But we also played baseball, we also bowled, we also did hundreds of other things that you can do. And so it's not an excuse that you don't have the time, because you gotta take the time. But people back then used to focus around the fire department. They don't anymore. Everybody's so busy doing other things. They don't have that time anymore.
You can't even do farm tours anymore. You can't have people come on the farm
I
anymore for
agree.
insurance and liability. I know it's probably fighting.
All right, it's almost 8 o'clock. I think enough has been said in the public hearing for the fire department. So at this time, we'll start the regular town board meeting and the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has approval of the financial report.
So move. Like I said earlier, you can tell it took a big dive because we paid for the truck. Well, we had money move in, money move out. We had the bond move in and now it moved out.
Motion by Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Dees to approve the financial report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the October 10th, 2022 meeting minutes.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Pacer to approve the October 10th meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the fire department report.
So move. Second. Should you read it, Bob?
Yeah.
I have it over here. Got it. This is from Matthew Hendershot. Good evening. Your Stafford Fire Department answered 22 calls for service in the month of October. Included in these calls were structure fires, tractor fire, motor vehicle collision, and EMS requests. We have also completed approximately 484 man-hours of training through the month. Part of the man-hours were spent supporting a new member through the Interior Firefighting Operations class at the County Training Center. The class completion added another interior qualified firefighter to our ranks. Regards, Tim Ekdahl, Stafford Fire Chief. I don't know, did I get a little comment?
You didn't get it. Well, you didn't ask for the eyes yet. Who's in favor? You didn't ask for
Did I get a vote on that?
that yet.
Okay, motion by Councilman Pacer, second by Councilman Panic to approve the fire department report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the ZEO report. You all have that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Pacer to approve the code enforcement officer's report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We'll move on now to Eric Weiss, who's been here longer, you're probably longer than me, but
I'm used to it. Used to it. So we
for those of
received
you who don't
some,
know, this gentleman, Eric, he's worked for Clark Patterson. He's our engineer when it comes to water districts and stuff like that,
so we got some good news last week in Water 12. New York State awarded the town a grant of $1,065,000 to help deal with the overages we have on the project cost. So it was great news. So we ended up having a discussion with Municipal Solutions last week as well to kind of brainstorm of what are the next steps. So what I gave the board here is a quick synopsis of the project costs. The original project budget is shown on this sheet, which was $3.414 million. And on the bottom, the original unit cost was $884.12 per year. So that was our our estimated annual cost for the typical single-family residential property. So with our projected overages, so that's what option 1 and option 2 are based on. This is using, option 1 is using 8-inch PVC. Based on the bid prices, and I will clarify, so the town, we never rejected the bids, so we've kept them open. We have reached out to the low bidder to have them review their bid prices to see if they can hopefully stick with those numbers. So far, we've heard some positive feedback. Sounds like the price of pipe has really stabilized since we opened bids, which is good news. So we're hopeful that they will come back and indicate they can stand by their bid prices or a marginal increase. So, but this is based on their bid prices. So the 8-inch option is $4,062,800, and that's with a $540,000 contingency. So when you plug in the numbers, the additional grant funding, we end up with the same annual debt cost. The only increase we're going to propose, because we have to switch from a ductile iron water main to a PVC water main, is the town would have to establish a capital reserve fund. Reason being, Monroe County Water Authority will not take essentially long-term liability over PVC. That's not their standard material. So it's not unlike what town of Virgin's doing right now, town of Byron. Virgin's putting in PVC water main. They did the same thing where they established capital reserve fund. So what we've proposed is a reserve fund contribution per unit of $60 a year. So ultimately, we're proposing right now the annual unit cost would go from $884 per year to just over $944 per year. Option 2 is our 8-inch and 12-inch option. Option 2 is really in there to fit in with the county phase 2 project. Ultimately, there's a portion of this project which they would desire for that pipe to be upsized from 8-inch to 12-inch to serve additional areas in the county, also serve potentially additional areas in the town of Stafford, would also provide additional fire protection to the town of Stafford residents. So with that, you'll see there's a county contribution of $416,200. Overall, just the way the numbers work, and because of the way the funding agency works, if some of you have been on the board a while, you understand how rural development operates. The loan money is always spent at the end. So realistically, the additional grant funds, ultimately, with either option, the projected annual debt service is going to be identical. Again, just because we have to spend the loan money last. So ultimately, they have the same unit cost. Yes, we are using some of the additional WIA money, so the additional grant money that the town obtained is going to help pay for that price of that pipe increase, but it's all within the project budget, and again, the unit cost is not going to change regardless.
That's changed favorably, because it used to be, you spent the loan first, and then you had grant money, and if you didn't spend all the, grant money.
Wait,
lost it.
No, I just said that vice versa, didn't I? I don't know why I just said that. Grant money last. Sorry, I apologize for that.
And you can't, and if you don't spend all the grant money, you can't apply it to the
Yes,
to the
no, I
unit
slipped on
cost.
that one tonight.
You
So
leave it on the table, it's gone.
yes, it's grant money last, so
Alright.
that's why, so, yeah, loan money first, grant money last, so I apologize for that.
Alright.
So what we would typically end up happening with a lot of these projects is, you'll end up with grant funds left over, because the project is operated and maintained by the water authority. We'll be able to buy some additional pipe to have on a shelf, but PVC pipe doesn't last forever. Sitting out in the sunlight, we can buy some additional parts and pieces, but for the most part, if there's grant money left over, it goes back to the government. So, the goal of, I apologize for that, Bob, thanks for catching me on that one.
I'd agree, that'd be a good thing.
It would be. So ultimately, like I said, until we find out for sure from the contractor, these are our projections. Really, the next step is we're gonna have to reform the district. So there's gonna have to be an updated bond resolution, updated district formation. So ultimately, the town board will have to hold a public hearing, act on the increased unit cost. That will be subject to permissive referendum by the property owners in the district. But ultimately, that'll go back into their hands if they want to petition that to bring that to a public vote. So typically what we've seen with these projects, though, if the property owners have really already approved at 884, going up to 944, it's kind of within,
$60.
is within, and for the most part, based on what we've been hearing on the need for public water, I don't foresee that being a major disagreement. So there will have to be a public hearing at some point, to deal with the district formation increase. Once that's done, we're hoping we can award the bids as soon as possible. So my gut sense is the earliest we can probably do that is January. But if we can line that up for January, we're still hearing materials are about 6 months out. So even if they're awarded in January, likely not gonna have construction happening until the summer months. So, I did also include just a map, just a refresher of what the project area looked like. The only other two documents I included in here, one is the unit definition that's in the map planner report. I know that's been a topic of a discussion at past board meetings. I guess while we're updating the map planner report, this could be a time to update unit definitions if you so desire. So just a refresher of how the units are calculated currently and in some previous districts in the town, not every district. Each single-family residential is considered one unit. Every additional family dwelling in a house is another half unit. So if it's a 3-family residential, it's 2 units. Commercial properties are based on the equivalent of a single house. So if a commercial property uses 180 gallons a day or less, that's 1 unit. If they use double that, then it's 2 units. The only other category we have is vacant developable parcel. And those are assigned half an EDU. So those parcels are parcels that are not within a New York State Certified Ag District and that are on a buildable lot per town zoning. So a lot of towns, so technically they have to be charged something. It's just a factor of what ultimately town board, opts for those vacant developable properties to pay. Now the reason they have to be charged something is really a state law. Because public water is available to that property, technically they're benefiting by their property being more valuable, so they have to pay into something. So ultimately, like I said, if we're gonna go down this road of revising the map plan report, this could be an opportunity to modify our district definition.
I noticed at the bottom it says Genesee County Fish and Game. And those look to be 1, 2, 3, 4 properties.
Yep.
Will be in the district, but won't be hooking up to the water system
Yep.
at this time. Are they included in the number of units?
Some of them are, yes. Some of them are landlocked. So typically, because therefore water main's not on the frontage of their property.
All right.
So some of them are, yes.
So those are included in the
In the vacant,
units.
yes. Yep.
in the vacant
Yep.
property?
Yep.
All right. Now, again, you've told us before that we've had other districts that have had half units, but when we search the rolls, we can't find those half units.
They're not being assigned
charged.
properly, I don't believe.
All right.
I think at some point, someone's gonna have to go through,
One of the things that struck us, and tell me if I'm telling tales out of school. When we interviewed our new assessors, our top two candidates had a much more rigorous procedure that they were intimately involved in or led that determined half units. And just like my email kept asking, why is it that these units aren't determined beforehand by the assessor? Why do we have to pay you again to determine those units? And it appears that that question's been answered in other towns quite readily. So expect a call.
Typically, we go through the map plan report, assign a definition, the town board adopts it. Ultimately, we'll come up with the initial calculation. Every year thereafter, it's typically the assessor that goes through from a typical town and updates the units. If a new house is built,
No, this is determining the units.
assigning the units, correct?
All right.
Yep. And the definition's set in stone unless the town board changes it.
All right,
So-
when we do a new public hearing, because we've got to reestablish this district, are we gonna send out notifications to not only the residents, but the people that own that vacant developed land?
It has to be sent out to every property in the district.
All right, good.
Eric, I have a question on that, because I'm in District 12, of course. If there's never been a half unit before, I mean, obviously, because we looked through the tax rolls, there was,
There is half units, they have just not been assigned.
so is that going to, are they gonna go back and they have to change all
That's
that?
up to these folks up here.
Well, they can't go, okay.
So,
It's
the
in
districts were formed based on these half units,
certified. agricultural.
not within.
Right,
Correct.
that might be where it's catching some,
No, there's probably a few,
yeah.
so.
But don't forget, you have two ways to escape it. You can either,
Put it in the district.
if you have one unit and it's a contingent lot, you can simply draw them together,
Merge it.
Yep.
merge them.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I did with mine when I
Yep.
bought it. Or you can have where you weren't in the ag district and then you qualified for the ag district and all of a sudden, because you've got now cropland growing on there, and all of a sudden, you know, you're no longer eligible. So there are things that can make it go down.
Right.
So landlocked units wouldn't get a unit.
They don't have frontage.
They don't have one.
Yep. So yes, there have been half unit definitions in past reports. They're just, someone's gonna need to go through parcel by parcel.
Yeah, but they're.
It's a fun
They
process.
were not numerous, even,
Huh?
they were not numerous. This is.
No, there's not a lot.
This is this is probably triple
Yep,
if what you take all the other districts
Yep.
put together is tripled in
could
10.
be, yeah.
All right,
Yep.
because we're talking about like 3 units. That isn't a whole lot to hang our hat on. All right.
So, but like I said, if we wanna stick with this definition, we can. If we wanna change it, we can also. So, food for thought for the board. Ultimately, if we're gonna revise the report, if we wanna make it 0.1 EDU per vacant developable parcel, we can do that. Ultimately, they should be charged something.
Well, county planning can get you a map of who's in the district. and-
It's on the GIS.
Yeah,
It's on the GIS website. You
Yeah.
go on the GIS website, you turn on the layer, it shades them all in. So it's pretty,
Yeah.
it's just a tedious process,
Yeah,
parcel by parcel. So the only other thing that I handed out was a draft agreement that should the town proceed with the option 2. This is a very similar agreement that I didn't print properly, I apologize. Missed a page. I think I emailed that to you though.
Yeah, I think it's in here. It's, I put it as resolution 50.
Yeah, you should have the, it's in your
It-
board,
it's in-
it's in your
it's
board
in here.
packet as well. The one I handed out didn't print right.
It's the green line, green line.
Yes,
Mhm.
yep. So ultimately, this is the agreement indicating that should the town proceed with option 2, the 8 and 12-inch option, they would commit to that $416,200. So this is a very similar agreement the town of Alva did a couple of years ago for a very similar situation.
All right, so they'll subsidize us for us increasing our pipe
Yep,
size?
yep, yep.
And it's beneficial, I don't know.
Like I said,
I mean, that's all industrial.
it helps the town as well.
Although there's a potential that it could be covered with things that don't use water.
Yeah, but there's a lot of frontage, you know,
True.
restaurants.
So,
Oh, over there, yeah, all right,
Yeah.
over there,
Yeah.
all right.
any questions for me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I'm here.
There's 2 more items in here on the agenda. The Resolution 49, authorizing me to sign amendment to USDA proposal. Let me see if I can find it. Where's it? Resolution 49. There you go. Okay. Resolution 49, authorizing Supervisor Clement to sign USDA proposal for language change for Water District 12. Whereas the town of Stafford has a proposal to amend the language of amendment number 4 to the contract dated December 14th, 2018, and whereas the change in language states that an estimated increase in the project may be $1,800 to $38,900, and whereas the proposed change shall read the contract based on the current project scope will increase by $1,800 and is not to exceed $38,900.
So this is, looks like it's a amendment to municipal solutions contract.
Yeah.
So must be the original contract was for 1,800, which was probably just for the initial grant application.
Right.
This is gonna be for, assuming the project moves forward, all the grant administration for the USDA and the new grant.
And
This would all be covered under the project expenses.
Yeah, at the end of the day, when it closes, all of this.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
will-
yeah, so that's what this looks like.
Well, while I got it in my hand here, I'll finish it. Therefore, the town board of the town of Stafford authorizes Supervisor Clement to sign the agreement of the proposed change in language for Water District 12 and the USDA. Motion by, to do this.
Right, it's $1,800, right?
No.
No, it's increase,
Maybe.
it's estimated to increase by $1,800 to $38,900. So it's,
Maybe.
In
Yes.
it, that's already in there.
yeah,
It's just, yeah.
so all we're talking about is $1,800. All right.
You making the motion?
Yeah. No, Bob did.
Second?
Jimmy did, but
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Panic,
yes.
Councilman Deason,
Yes.
Councilman Pacer,
Yes.
Supervisor Clement,
Yes. Councilman Schrader is absent.
yes.
Okay. And I will sign in the necessary, okay, I've got,
Okay. And
okay.
then,
No.
Now you're trying to do this one.
Genesee County Emergency Management Services Recommendations. You got your hand on that, or
right here.
that's resolution 51.
Oh, no, we just did 51. This is your emergency, you set out the
Yep,
recommendations?
on the other hand.
Yeah. That's this one. He sent this,
Resolution 51.
you,
Okay, we'll jump up to resolution 51.
Sorry,
All right.
I'm confused.
Resolution 51, agreement by County of Genesee and the Town of Stafford for Phase 2 water construction payments. This agreement made the 14th day of November 2022 by and between the County of Genesee, the Municipal Corporation, and the State of New York, with offices located in the old County Courthouse, 7 Main Street, Batavia, New York, 14020, hereinafter County, and the Town of Stafford, the Municipal Corporation of the State of New York, with its offices located at 8903 Route 237, Stafford, New York, hereinafter Stafford. You want me to read it all?
So that's essentially, that's the cost sharing, so that's the county contribution, that'll have to get updated, so that one says 417,000, so it actually will be 416,200. And again, that'll be the county's contribution towards upsizing from 8-inch to 12-inch water.
So this changes, I'm sorry, to.
416,200.
Thank you.
So what percentage of the increase is the county covering?
Yeah,
Roughly 80%.
so we'll change that.
Necessary to read this? Maybe I'm gonna read it. I read the first paragraph. Whereas the county has begun the process to provide additional water capacity for the county-wide water system in the amount of approximately 2.4 million gallons per day to be supplied from the Monroe County Water Authority, as set forth in a document entitled Engineering Report for the Genesee County Phase 2 Water Supply Project, hereinafter Phase 2. And whereas several of the local municipalities will be undertaking water projects to include construction of portions of Phase 2 improvements that are eligible for grants and low-interest financing through USDA Rural Development and other programs. And whereas in order to reduce the total cost for county water users, it would be mutually beneficial to the local municipalities and the county to have these municipalities pursue these funding sources for their projects as part of the county project. And whereas the county will provide contributions to help these towns construct larger local water facilities on a more affordable basis, and whereas this approach will allow the county to defer a portion of the total Phase 2 project costs, and whereas Stafford is in the process of establishing a water project designated as the Town of Stafford Water District Number 12. Now therefore, in consideration of the mutual covenants and agreements contained herein, it is agreed as follows. The county will pay to Stafford payments not to exceed the amount of
416,200.
The total payments were calculated based on the estimated cost of the improvements in the Phase 2 water facilities to be constructed in the Town of Stafford, consisting of the following water facility improvements, hereinafter improvements: upsizing of the water main and appurtenance from 8 to 12-inch along portions of Pearl Road Extension, Byron Road, and Fox Road. The county's project engineer shall inspect and certify completion of improvements. After completion of the respective improvements, the county will pay to Stafford the portion of the total payments that represents the construction cost for each improvement within 45 days of each compliance certification by the county's project engineers. This agreement may not be assigned by either party, either in whole or in part, without the prior written consent of the other party, and the assignment in violation of the foregoing shall be deemed void. This agreement shall be bound upon and shall inure to the benefit of each of the parties hereto and its successors and permitted assigns. This agreement and any transactions between the parties hereunder shall be governed by, construed, and interpreted in accordance with the laws of the state of New York. There are all agreements or understandings, either oral or written, between the parties affecting this agreement, and no charges or additions or deletions of any portions of this agreement shall be valid or binding upon the parties hereto unless the same is approved in writing by both parties. In witness whereof the parties have executed this agreement by their duly authorized officers to be effective as of the day and year first above written. And it has me signing as the town supervisor and Rochelle Stein as the legislative chair.
Now, does this go back to the whole, the county's trying to get another 12-inch main coming out of Rochester, and they're looking for a path to
Much
do it.
bigger than 12.
All right.
Like 24.
Is this part of it, or?
This actually helps feed from that bigger main
All right,
to the north.
that's what that's their
Yep.
incentive.
Yep.
Do you need a motion for this?
I guess you can authorize me to sign it.
Well, it's kind of a slam dunk to get 400,000 on something we'll have to pay for anyways, so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Deason to authorize Town Supervisor, Stafford Town Supervisor to sign the foregoing agreement for Phase 2 water construction payments.
So don't worry about signing that once the county's gotta get that through, the county ledge. Once they get it approved, then we'll circulate a copy for signature.
Okay, so this doesn't have to be done
No, not right now.
now. Okay.
No, you approved it, so
Yeah.
once they approve it, we can get it signed by both parties.
Okay. All right. Is that all we have for Eric?
No,
No?
you got a motion on this one, you got a motion and a second. And what you just read.
Oh, okay. Well,
You just need the vote, right?
okay. Who made the motion? Second?
Decent.
Please, okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That's it.
This for her.
That is where we go back up. Here. Emergency management service. Okay, I'll check that.
We didn't do this yet.
This is, the following are the agreed to top 10 for emergency services from our workshop with the Stafford Fire Department on October 18th, 2022. This is from Councilman Panic. I did a quick annotation since the file would not allow copy and paste. Main categories were better system interfaces, ease burden of responders, and provide incentives for recruitment. Attached is a copy of the file.
Yep, so what we have, we got together with the fire department on the 18th and picked out what our top 10 would be. Now, I can either, you gotta use a more copyable file. Word
It comes
would be
from,
nice.
the consultant, so unfortunately we don't have the Word document.
That's why, all right.
I had the same issue.
So you can either I can read off the annotation, which is really the one-sentence version of what we're asking for, or I can read the paragraph version, either way, because we have to endorse that recommendation as a town board. So probably second one, first one?
First one.
How about if I do them, and if you have any questions, then I'll read the whole thing.
We revert to the paragraph, the full
Yes.
paragraph.
All right, so we're saying our top 10, and one of them had a lot of discussion. Dispatch could have, this isn't the one, and I'll tell you when I get to that one, and you're gonna tell. Dispatch could improve customer service, so we thought that was a big thing to work on. Support study for vulnerable classes of citizens. So basically what you would have is the county would take on a study, and I don't know if we'll have to contribute to it, that would map all the vulnerable citizens so that our EMS people have it already. And that will help them a great deal. Reactivate Genesee County EMS Council. Standardized application process for all new members. That would be across fire companies. Have a reward or recognition or incentive program for high responders. This is like we used to have them in industry where if you came up with a cost savings or something quick, you would get, a small gift or a certificate or something like that. Partner with local businesses to allow responders not to pay a financial penalty. So that means if let's say Mitch has somebody working the counter that's a fireman and he gets called out, Mitch would cover for him financially.
Or any other employee.
Or any other employee. I'm just using him as an example because he's the easiest one to use. Encourage dual role municipal employees. So that would mean, Steve, you've got a bunch of guys that can drive big trucks, and being a fireman, you drive a big truck. And then we have one example right here of somebody who was a dual employee. And what that would mean, this is the next one, municipalities would give priority to responders when hiring. So all else being the same, if you would have somebody that applied, or us in the town, but it's more likely you, if you had somebody apply, you would give, all other things being equal, and one of them was a first responder, you would give preference to the first responder so that he's available right here in town. Well, you were there. I'm not explaining anything to you. Here's the big one. First responders' access to municipal health insurance. Now that's the way the consultant read it out. And that would be, you're talking, Tim said he had about 25 people that were first responders. You're talking about a small fortune. But where the discussion went is perhaps we should look at the idea again where you do it similar to a 401k where you give an amount per year. I worked for, later in my career, I worked for a small company, and their 401k contribution was $500. Now, in comparison to what GM was giving for a 401, it's markedly different. But that would be, out of a budget of $400,000, that would be $10,000 to give your first responders a benefit that they wouldn't get elsewhere. And although they're uncompensated, you could have a small retirement growing for them. And finally, a scholarship program for first responders. So like I said in the note, the main categories were better system interfaces, like with 911, and better interfaces on EMS. Ease the burden of responders, so that would be where you know, they wouldn't take a financial hit from local businesses. And they'll be given, you know, preference in hiring, and provide incentives for recruitment, which the spontaneous type reward, the scholarship type reward, and the if we do any type of retirement. So those were the 10. Were there any of them that weren't explained well enough where I should read the whole paragraph?
This is just FYI stuff. Right? Not to vote.
Oh, we're not voting to do it, no.
That's
No,
just
so,
FYI, just a
No.
discussion, Eric.
so this was what was asked, so there was over 90 recommendations in the study. We recognize we can't do every recommendation, so what we asked was every department, every municipality to provide their top 10. We're probably half the respondents so far. Probably once we get to 75%. The task force is gonna reconvene, look at all the input from all the municipalities, fire companies, EMS agencies, and the task force will take that information and pick the top 10 that the task force wants to implement.
All right, and then we also have to have one or two representatives
Yes.
for this.
Yep.
Which I would think, considering how much contribution we had from the fire people, we should give them first preference to.
Oh, we also asked the fire departments for names.
Oh, you already have them, all
I
right.
shouldn't get back to you for that.
All right.
Only against Jamie Gardner.
So if I propose a motion, the motion only is that we agree with what the top 10 should be. Not that we're gonna adopt any of them at this time, but it's, as a board, we feel it's a priority. So I make a motion that the top 10 list from the October 18th meeting with the fire department be approved by the board, and I already sent Eric a copy, so this will release him to use that copy. And those are what we feel are the priority items coming out of our meeting with the fire department.
Second?
Second.
You've got that part.
We're gonna have to go through the second half of it. I have a motion.
I make a motion
Yep,
that we adopt the top 10 improvements for emergency services to be studied by, what's the name of your committee again?
The Emergency Services Task Force.
By the Emergency Services Task Force.
too much now.
Okay, read back what you,
Okay, now I need a motion to adopt the improvements for emergency services to be studied by the Emergency Services Task Force.
Who pays for this study?
So the study was paid for by Genesee County. So study's complete. This is gonna now be folded back into the task force hands. So back to the volunteers to try to figure this out.
do a roll call.
Okay. Councilman Panic,
Yes.
Councilman Deason,
Yes.
Councilman Pacer,
Yes.
Supervisor Clement.
Yes. Passed 4-0 with one.
You're going missing.
Okay.
Don't we have an emergency, I don't know what they're called, fire emergency management for the county already?
You have a emergency management department, yes.
Okay, isn't this their job?
No. This is the job of all the fire departments, municipalities to figure out how we're gonna fix the cluster that we're in right now.
Yeah, that's his job, that's what the
No.
county pays him for.
This is not, like, there is no way the county's gonna be able to go, this is what you're doing, town of Stafford, this is what you're doing, Virgin. That's not gonna work like that. The only way this is gonna be successful is to get every department, and we're not gonna get every department, we're gonna get 25% of them initially, we're gonna get 30 maybe, and we're gonna see some wins, and this is just working collaboratively, is all this is. So this is bridging that gap more than we have now, because there's no manpower left. So, yeah, there's no way the county can mandate and push this on departments without cooperation.
Is there any benefit to the towns, like this town going to fire districts and the town own the equipment? Financially, I mean, now we're talking, giving them benefits, which I agree with. I mean, these guys should be,
The benefits is gonna be a tough one. Benefits can be very tough,
well, they've
especially
talked
with
about it,
volunteers.
they've talked about it for years of doing that,
Yeah.
doing something.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if there's any benefit to going to the fire districts and have,
Lots of opinions on that one. I would
well, I
recommend
know
you.
there is, but
My personal opinion is no, but that's just my personal opinion. But, like I said, there are fire districts, there are fire prevention districts. It's really personal, or preference of those municipalities.
well, the people have a little more say than what goes on.
Not necessarily.
You'd have less.
Districts,
You went to fire.
most districts are run by boards that are made up of the firemen. For the most part.
But the commissioners, we have commissioners.
The commissioners are made up, the commissioners are typically firemen. Or,
And
They're
they're
voted on by the people.
yeah, but no, but if they're the same people that are,
Oh, I understand.
you know what I mean, so that's the issue.
That's what I said before,
Yeah.
that small town like this, the
Yeah.
fire department was the center hub of the whole town.
But,
Okay,
anything else for me, Bob?
I don't think so. All right, well, thank you very much.
My wife was right, I told her 8:30.
Yeah, you're
No,
close.
no, it's not even close.
But
She knows me too
after
well.
all these years, she knows better, right?
She does, yeah. I go 8:30, no, she goes, no.
Isn't the primary difference between a fire protection district and a fire district where you have the commissioners?
Fire district has their own elections.
Yes.
And they,
They set their own budget, they have their own tax levy.
And they do their own tax levy. They
They
don't
have-
come through our budget.
Town board doesn't have any say.
they have to be, the thing is, you have to be an elected official to collect taxes. And that's why we collect the taxes for the fire department. The fire department would have to be a fire district and have your own officers, elected officers, then you could collect the taxes. All right, moving right along. We got to adopt the preliminary budget for 2023. Any questions, comments, a motion to adopt?
The only idea was the education department. We're gonna put that back to where it was for 2022. Because they have proposed another $5,000 more this year for 34,000. We're gonna put it back to the 29.
Let's see.
They proposed 34,000, and we were gonna put it back to 29.
What page is that on?
I think it probably just do a budget transfer later in the year.
Shouldn't be one.
No, I mean, but, you know,
Is that something we agreed to in the budget workshop, or is?
We didn't do nothing on it. We left it alone.
Yeah, we left it the same as,
No,
No, we went up 4,000.
we went up.
all right,
We need to put it back down to where it was for 2022.
18,000.
then you just take that difference and put it somewhere else. Then it doesn't affect your overall.
Well, it would. Like $4,000. But I mean, if it isn't there, you don't spend it, so.
Right, but you put that four back into an AI, then it doesn't affect your overall total. And you don't have to change them, and late in the game to change stuff,
Well, I mean, if you don't spend it, you don't spend it.
Right, you roll it over, which is better.
You know, might better roll it over because you might want
It's
it
already established.
for the next year.
Yeah.
All right. So as is, motion to adopt the preliminary budget.
second.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Tanner,
Yes.
Councilman Deason,
Yes.
Councilman Kacer,
Yes.
Supervisor Clement.
Yes. Motion passed 4-0. Now, we've got applications.
I don't hit the, you're gonna go into the session for that.
We'll
We're
have
gonna
to,
talk on that, yeah,
I'll move that down to here then.
okay, all right.
Resolution 44. Amendment to section 3.
Hey, Bob, are you skipping over applications for C?
Yes. We'll go into executive session for that.
That won't be discussed here?
Well, we'll go into executive session, rather than extend the meeting for everybody another 15, 20 minutes, so I will.
I stuck around for that.
What's EMO?
What?
MEO.
Motor equipment operator.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, do you want me just to say one thing on this?
Yeah.
I put an ad in the paper for those 3 positions, and I did not receive any applications at all for the MEO, and no interest in the volunteering for the recreation committee.
But we did receive ones for the,
There's 5 applications for the code enforcement zoning enforcement.
We'll have to set up, what we can do, we have to set up interviews for those people. We can do that now.
well, we do them at night. Mondays are, Mondays are always best, because we're used to coming here on Mondays.
And we want to have interviews on the 21st. This is assuming,
Can we get them out and informed and back by the 21st part? How did that go with the assessor? Were you able to do it?
I was.
Isn't that zoning board of appeals night? Do they use the same room?
They will use this room most likely, but if you want to go to the courtroom for your interviews, you can do that.
yeah,
What time? 7?
7:05.
6:30, because we got 5 of them in. They're only half an hour apart.
6:30 is, well,
6:30, 7, so 38, 30.
yeah, if it's
Maybe
scheduled.
9 o'clock by the time we get out of here. Anyway,
That's if everybody,
Right, shows.
So we're gonna do that on the 21st.
Okay.
And you will notify,
I will notify them. Is that just for this, the board only, for the interviews?
We did for assessor, right?
Okay.
all right. Resolution 44. Amendment to section 35-2 of the Stafford Town Code regarding the residency requirement for assessor, zoning officer, and code enforcement officer. Whereas the town board of the town of Stafford, New York desires to amend its local law number 1 of 2007 regarding the residency requirements of assessor, zoning officer, and code enforcement officer. Now therefore be it resolved, a candidate for the office of assessor, zoning officer, or code enforcement officer may be appointed so long as they are an elector in Genesee County or any contiguous county of Genesee County. Be it further resolved that said proposed local law be laid on the desk of the members of this town board on this date and remain there, and a copy thereof kept on file in the office of the town clerk until the 12th of December, and that a public hearing be held before this town board on the 12th day of December, 2022 at 7:15 p.m. at the Stafford Town Hall, 8903 Route 237, Stafford, New York, on the advisability of enacting said proposed local law. And be it further resolved that a copy of said proposed local law be mailed to each member of the town board not in attendance at this meeting, and a post paid properly addressed and securely closed envelope in a post box within the town of Stafford, New York, not less than 10 calendar days exclusive of Sunday prior to the date of said public hearing. And be it further resolved that the town clerk shall cause notice of said public hearing to be published once in the Daily News no more than 10, but at least 5 days prior to the date of said public hearing, which notice shall contain the time and place of said hearing, the title and purpose thereof, as well as a statement that a copy of said proposed local law is on file in the town clerk's office. Motion by,
so moved.
So move.
Oh, go ahead, Jim. I'll second.
I already started the regular meeting.
All right.
Motion by Councilman Panic, second by Councilman Deesey. We'll have a roll call vote as follows.
Okay, Councilman Panic,
Yes.
Councilman Deason,
Yes.
Councilman Pacer,
Yes.
Supervisor Clement.
Yes. Passed 4-0.
One of the things when doing the research on this, because what we're basically saying is that we're going to modify, which is allowed by the state, that you don't have to have appointed people necessarily from your town or county. I noticed that they updated the state law for each of these exemptions, but when I tried to find Stafford for our 2007 motion, I couldn't find it. Because if you look at the progression, in 2003 we hired Bob Patterson, and we thought, well, I wasn't on the board, that was prior to me. It was thought that's all that was required. And then we didn't actually hire anybody in 2007, but that's when we updated it. But we only used the language and county. But when you look at the modifications to the state law done by other towns, most of them have, or in contiguous counties. So all we're doing is adding and contiguous counties. Now, I don't know if that prevented us from, if you had to do that to get on the state list or what, but we're gonna have to ask the question, why wasn't that updated? We send them to the state. Was it an oops on the state's part not to modify it, or did we not categorize it right? We should follow through on that so that it gets posted with the state, similar to other towns.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the next item on the agenda is to choose a date and time for public hearing for Resolution 44, to amend local law number 3 of 2007. Now, we already have a public hearing scheduled, or is that? And before this town, well, that paragraph would cover this, right? So we've already done that. Yeah, okay. Okay, we cleared that. Resolution 45. Authorize delinquent water bills to be levied against the 2023 tax roll. Whereas the town clerk has received a list of property owners who owe for water rents in Water District 10 to the town of Batavia, and whereas section 229-15 parenthesis C, the town law stipulates that such amounts owing shall be levied against the property to which the service is rendered. Now therefore be it resolved that the attached list in the amount of $304.98, or as may be amended before the final submission to Genesee County Treasurer, be and is hereby approved for levying against the individual's 2023 tax form. Lewis Henning property located at 7639 Batavia, Stafford Town Line Road, tax number 1.-1-2. Re-levy is $285.03, county 7%, $19.95. Total with 70% is $304.98. Motion to do this.
Second. Seems I recall we've had to do this in previous years.
Last year we
with the
did.
same properties.
Every year. You made it. Who second? You made the second. This is motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Bennett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now we're running into him. I'll just stay with it. Let's pay it. We don't have to do it. Item number 12, Resolution 46. Hiring Lori Frangetta on a contractual basis for assessor. Whereas there is a need for an assessor in the town of Stafford upon the retirement of Ann Safienza, and whereas Lori Frangetta has applied for the position of assessor in the town of Stafford, and therefore the town board of the town of Stafford hereby appoints Lori Frangetta as contractual assessor at a prorated pay based on $22,500 per year, pending the amendment of the town's local law to change its residency requirement. First start date shall be October 20th, 2022. Motion to do this.
So moved.
Are we backdating the law?
No,
We haven't had a public hearing on it.
we're hiring the person contractually because we have to do a law before we hire them.
So how do we hire someone before we have the law in effect?
we can't appoint Lori to the position, because it's an appointed position with a term. But we need to have assessor work done. So when Ann's, just like when Ann's gone, we hire somebody to fill her space. Just like when you're gone, we hire somebody to do building inspections.
But this is just on a contractual basis.
So she's been working? I mean, you said October, okay.
Motion by Councilman Panic, is there a second? Seconded. Any further discussion?
No, I think during the interviews, we learned a lot from the top candidates. And I still think what it's going to, and you see it forming up, is that it'll be assessment companies that will, unless the state takes it over. There's always the,
Yeah.
that they come down and just
Or the county?
do your assessment at the press of a button. Because if you look at it, the one guy is just about there, but he was using his clerk to fill in for an assessor, and we didn't like that.
Right.
So
So is she a company or is she an independent?
she's an independent. And he was independent too. But when they start having multiple assessors group up together, and the beauty of that is that if you have a big project, you can throw 2 qualified people at it, or 3, whatever count you have.
Roll call.
Councilman Panic,
Yes.
Councilman Deason,
Yes.
Councilman Pacer,
Yes.
Supervisor Clement.
Yes. Passed 4-0. Resolution 47, official undertaking of municipal officials. Whereas various sections of New York State town law and public officer law require that certain officials execute an official undertaking. And whereas we, the town board of town or Stafford, hereby require the supervisor, deputy supervisor, town clerk, tax collector, deputy town clerk, tax collector, town justice clerks, bookkeeper, and highway superintendent to execute said official undertaking as required by law. This will not include the bookkeepers because they do not work for the town staff. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Stafford Town Board hereby approves the document entitled Town of Stafford Official Undertaking of Municipal Officers annexed hereto as to its form and manner of execution, and be it further resolved that Stafford does and shall maintain insurance coverage in the sum of $500,000 for the town clerk tax collector, $100,000 for the deputy town clerks, $249,000 for the court clerks, $10,000 for the highway superintendent, bookkeeper, and town justices to indemnify against losses through the failure of the officers, clerks, and employees covered thereunder, faithfully to perform their duties or to account properly for all monies or property received by virtue of their positions or employment, and through fraudulent or dishonest acts committed by the officers, clerks, and employees covered thereunder, and be it further resolved that said official undertaking contain the notarized signatures of those named municipal officers be held in the office of the town clerk, as well as the original copies of the insurance policies indicating the sufficiency of the sureties to indemnify the town against losses which may arise from failure of such officials to properly discharge their duties. Discussion.
This basically identifies which employees are insured, which are considered part of how we comply with the New York State.
Yeah,
so we're
left out.
But there's, again, you don't handle the physical money, so.
Nope. Now, the bookkeepers, even though they are employed by the town of Batavia, they could be included in this, I guess.
It should be.
Says bookkeeper. Says bookkeeper.
They come from them.
Yeah.
Money. All right. Don't trust us. Don't trust us to handle. No, they don't handle any money.
It's when you send the checks, then it becomes money.
Yeah, and then it comes out, you're right. Okay. So, the motion by, who made a motion to do this?
I don't think anybody yet. So move.
Second.
Pretty safe when we do this every year.
Roll call vote.
Councilman Cannon,
Yes.
Councilman Deason,
Yes.
Councilman Cantor,
Yes.
Supervisor Clement.
Yes.
Okay, now before you move on, I also have this piece of paper that all councilmen have to sign before I take it further, so can you please all sign this?
That's from the same,
Yes, that goes with the undertaking. And that with, this paper and the insurance all go together to,
Who is the town's insurance through?
Lolly?
yeah.
Yeah, but that's not a policy.
It's, well, it's NYMER, but it's, but Lolly's handled the NYMER account. Thank you. I'll get, Ed, we'll be back.
Yeah, previously we had, who was it? There was a substantial savings when we went to Nyman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
quite a while ago.
Yeah, plus they do the audits and.
Yeah. Do what I say.
Okay, next item, resolution 48, there's a question about peddler's permit. And somebody was gonna, says, whereas the town of Stafford set a fee for the purpose of peddlers requesting canvassing in the town of Stafford, whereas the town of Stafford shall charge a fee of $25 for each permit, therefore the town of Stafford shall charge a fee of $25 for a peddler's permit. Any questions about the language in there?
How long is the permit good for?
Well, each permit, it's different. Normally, it's a month or 2 months during the summer. This came around because this spring, somebody wanted to canvass the town, and they wanted to do it for the summer months only. I think each peddler permit would be a different amount of time.
I mean, this would, if we do this, there's no time in here, it would be just ad infinitum.
Yeah, there's no time or anything in there. Pay $25 and you're good forever.
To sell vacuums only.
Yeah.
You need another permit.
Well, it's real easy, just add to the wording, not to exceed 1 year.
Yeah, whatever you guys wanna do. Or not do it at
Or
all.
one
I
item.
just found that there was not this in place, and because of the
How about 90
organization,
days?
we need to do this.
Sure.
I don't want these guys around here all the time.
Not to exceed 90 days.
Whereas, put that in the second, whereas, outside of charge for each permit, not more than 90 days.
All right. means we got some control.
Who made the motion? Who will make the motion for this?
I did.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now, if, let's say, you keep talking about, selling, canvassing door to door, that would include charities, right?
If they do door to door,
Yeah.
You make those Girl Scout girls get those permits, that peddler permit?
Usually they don't hit everybody, they just hit people they know.
yeah, they don't normally go door to door.
They don't go to strangers.
Mm-mm.
Okay, next.
Oh, financial. We did that.
We've already done that.
We done that.
I do have to sign something. Maybe we'll do that later.
We'll do it later.
Yeah. All right. Resolution 50. Eighth amended Town of Batavia and Town of Stafford Financial Clerical Services Agreement. We have an intermunicipal agreement for bookkeeping services. And this is what this one is all about. Do you want me to read it, or?
They've been doing it for a long time.
No.
Probably the amount.
Yeah.
Let's see.
This is for the bookkeeper?
Yes. In consideration for compensation for the services set forth herein, Stafford shall pay Batavia $20,000 per year of this agreement. The sum shall be paid during the 2023 budget year to provide services for the year of 2023.
So over 10 years ago, we used to pay 19,000, and this is only 20, and we get 2 people.
Mhm.
How much do they work though? I mean, how many hours a week?
Oh, I don't know, it's a lot.
It's a bargain
It really is.
Yeah.
for their knowledge. For what they do, it should be like 40,000.
But the advantage of using Batavia's personnel is they're also on call.
Yeah,
If we have a question, we just call their office.
right.
Fantastic.
Got a question? They answer.
And it's the right answer.
Yeah, because they have knowledge.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
understand it.
Yeah.
Number one, their seniority, but number two, Batavia gets into a heck of
Right.
a lot more things because of what type of development they have.
Oh,
So,
yeah, they're miles down the path compared to us.
You make a motion?
Yep.
Okay, Ginny made a motion.
Saying about.
second,
Or put 2 names down.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, that's
No, we
fine.
got it. We're good.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Panic, to enter into the financial clerical services agreement with the town of Batavia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's people you can get.
Done that. There's the manager, done that. Item number 19 on the agenda, Samantha Call has resigned as Recreation Director. And we have a letter to that effect. Do we need a motion to accept it, I guess?
Just a quick question, different career? She was in college, wasn't she? Did she graduate?
She's still in process.
Alright.
And I think her path and where she is, I think she's gonna stay there in Syracuse area.
Alright.
So moved and send her a letter of thank you for her services.
Second to that?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Pacer, second by Councilman Panic to accept Samantha Call's resignation and to thank her for her services. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. And we need to, well, you have an ad out for that?
That was up here. We didn't get anybody, but for the directorship, I will. I haven't done it because we haven't
Okay.
accepted a resignation yet.
That was for committee people, right?
The ad was for the committee people, but I wasn't gonna move on her position until you guys accepted the resignation. And it was, and just in general talk, it was suggested possibly her lead person. And Samantha's mentioned it too, she might be a good fit for that position, so, I don't know what you, as a board, feel.
Probably
Reach out to-
logically
To her lead person, and we'll go from there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have official resignation of Stephanie Underhill. Please accept this letter as formal notification that I am resigning from my position as assessment clerk with the town of Stafford effective immediately. Thank you for the experience and education that I have received over the past 2 years. Sincerely, Stephanie Underhill. Motion to accept that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Panic to accept Stephanie Underhill's resignation as assessment clerk. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 22, Kathy Worthington.
Can we go back to number 20? Are you gonna advertise for the recreation director to see if there's anyone else?
Well, the board wants me to check with her lead person first and see if she's interested in it. She was highly recommended by Samantha. If she's not interested, then I will place an ad, is that
Yeah?
correct?
Yep.
And then, going through all these other ones, do we have an auditing firm? Do we have when was the town audited last? Do you do an audit
Every year.
year.
every year?
Yep.
Just like your taxes every year.
So your 2021 audit was done, and 2022 will be done when?
Next year.
Early part of the year is when they do them,
Yep.
more or less?
It takes about 6 months.
Here's an example. Of course. That's for 2021.
And I can come in and view that?
Yes.
Is it
Okay.
foil? Right, it's a foilable thing?
I would
Is
think
it just a
it's
void?
already
It's
done.
just a, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just simply a document. As long as it isn't one of the 8 things in the FOIL law or in the other New York State laws, they're foilable.
Just checking.
When you guys table things, when do you bring them back generally? Because there's, I was reading back through some minutes and some things had gotten tabled, but unless I've missed a meeting or it wasn't in the notes, how often do you come back and revisit things?
If they've been tabled, a lot of times it'll be taken care of outside the meeting, but then it might come in as a different motion on the next meeting to cover whatever was tabled. That's,
So if something was tabled that I want an answer on, I can just ask you? And you would know, right? Okay.
Sometimes the problem fixes itself.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
correct.
Well, the examples for this year is, thing from January till now, we tabled 2 items. One was your road law, parking lot, right?
Yeah, and we come back and redid it.
And the other was, we started a motion that we were going to come up with a FOIL policy. based on what our attorney told us the first time. And then we tabled it because we wanted to check with them again. And then when we checked with them again,
Just do the state.
yeah, just use the state. So,
What about the committees to do the comprehensive plan?
was that a motion?
Well, that would be something that we would appoint. I mean, at this table right now, if we wanted to redo the comprehensive plan, why, we would put together a committee.
Well, that's what I mean, you
Of
talked about putting a committee together, so you're not gonna redo the comprehensive plan? I mean, it was just brought up,
As
so,
of right now, we have no plans to do that, but
Okay.
we could.
or the zoning things, the zoning, that was another one? Okay.
If you look at Robert's Rules of Order, tabled item can remain on the table virtually indefinitely. Normally, the way we do it is that we bring it up under old business unless something has changed, which basically makes it a moot point.
Right.
Speaking of the no parking signs, how are they coming along?
They're up.
Oh, yeah?
More to put up.
I didn't see them, okay.
How's that work as far as when they say off the shoulder? How far, is that like, I think you mentioned 19 feet once or something? No?
25 foot off the center.
25 foot off the center.
Not right away.
25
Unless it's
foot.
a four-rod road.
Yep, that'll be the right of way. So,
Well, 25 foot's pretty far.
Where you putting them up at?
all the town lines and
Oh, White Road.
other various problem locations.
Does the state put theirs up here or not, or do we do that?
We do it.
And the code of ethics thing I finally found. Took some digging, but I found what I was looking for. So I'm all set on that.
Okay. Item number 23, Crystal Casper.
Hello, sir. How are you? So, I'm Crystal, this is my husband Patrick, my son Josh, my daughter-in-law Caroline. So, we are just, on our farm, we took a building that was basically, it used to be a stallion barn. And it now, for many years, it just sat vacant, just as a storage. So we decided we wanted to renovate the barn. And when I say renovate, all I'm saying is that we just took the old wood that was on the inside of it, we took it down, we put up fresh wood. If I wanted to put 4-horse saws right back in there again, I could do that, no problems. Didn't change anything. Even the doors are the original doors, we just put 2 windows in it so we could see out it. The gentleman who's Mr. Wood, whatever his position is, he has since been contacting me, telling me he wants a building permit for our building. I don't quite understand, when I've talked with him on the phone, I said, I don't quite understand the reasoning for a building permit. We didn't add to the building, we didn't change the structure of the building. It would be no different if you wanted to change your wallpaper or your, paneling in your house. This is a barn. All we did was we just changed the existing wood on the inside and put up fresh. He's been very persistent on the fact that, as of recently, that he wants us to do a building permit, which I got the building permit. I paid a $75 fee for a building permit, even though I don't quite understand it and I don't believe in it. And then he texted me or emailed me this morning, and told me not to show up for this meeting tonight, that I wasn't necessary. And that he wanted us to come up with a complete, parking lot outlay because of what we do on our farm now. Now, a few years ago, for about 10 years, we did a pumpkin festival and a corn maze. Not one time did anybody ever say to us that we had to have a parking lot laid out. It was a field. We never had an accident, we never had an issue, we never had anything. So I'm not really quite sure I'm understanding, we'll comply, nope, we don't want any problems with anybody. We'll comply with what anybody really needs us to do, as long as it's legit. I don't feel that we really need to have a building permit to change the inside of our barn by freshening it up, if you will. Unless somebody can show me where I'm completely wrong on that.
You didn't make a structural change to
No,
the
sir.
building?
Nope, not one.
We
I
kind
think
of
that's
did.
a requirement.
We kind of did. We actually, so the barn was built by her dad. He's not an engineer, he's a farmer. And we made it stronger. We just felt, you know,
I'm in the example you used where you had people getting pumpkins, I'm in the exact same situation with my tree farm.
Okay.
Now, there aren't buildings there, but if I put up, it's far different to put up a building that maybe stores my equipment, or putting up a building that establishes a retail establishment, and I'm not talking about from a building code point of view, but from an insurance point of view. And I noticed in the ag and market laws that they give you lots of protections until you get to retail units. So that's where I think it's coming in. Jerry, you're here, so.
Our building permit is also considered our site plan review.
All right.
The planning board has requested the site plan review for their business, okay? And I'm just the guy that gets to deliver the message.
yeah, that's fine. I mean, you doing your job, I appreciate that. I just seen here,
So,
pardon our ignorance, that demolition's involved in that as well. I mean, I'll be honest with you, we could have sold meat out of freezers in the barn the way it was. People come for the meat, they're not coming for the ambiance.
Sure.
But guess what? I'm not right, she is. People like it looking nice.
Oh, yeah,
They
yeah.
wanna feel like it. So we made it nice. We really didn't change it. And, in all honesty, the building was built for retail services for horse studs. So it's always been a retail structure right from the get-go. So, that being said, there hasn't been a stud in there in probably 30 years, but that's really why the building was built to begin with. So it was always premised on that. Now, I know rules and laws change, and
well, our town law says that you have to have a site plan review for a business.
a site plan review of an existing structure,
A site plan review of the business you're doing.
I see. Thank you for that.
So that's all we're seeking.
So basically, it's, so we get, I mean, I'm asking, you get to say yes or no? Not you, but town gets to say yes or no that we can or can't do that?
The planning board will be the ones that,
Yes, I understand.
and they will approve your site plan. They won't approve your business because you fall under the ag and markets law, so,
And the parking,
correct, they're gonna,
that's under that as well?
yeah.
Okay. Well,
They just wanna make sure.
so it's
you
on those guys.
have-
Yeah, well, you're doing your job, I appreciate it. Thank you for doing it. Somebody's gotta do it, right?
No, that's the type of businesses we wanna have here. Ag-based businesses, good.
Come on down and get a steak. I'll even give you one. Every one of you. Not that I'm trying to help you get through or anything. That's far from my,
That's why he doesn't.
That wasn't a bribe, was
That's why
it?
he doesn't.
Freezers.
we call it a different thing on the farm.
So you sell true Christmas trees?
Yes.
So you have to basically do the same thing like with the parking area?
People, it's harvest from the field.
Yeah.
Hmm?
She asked me a question. I said that was long before me.
Yeah.
So the day that he sells his meat, you move the coolers out into the front of the building in the parking lot.
Whatever. I'm sure everything's gonna work out fine.
I still just,
Well, it's a
no,
tax,
offense,
is
I
all
still
it
just,
is.
I don't understand. I'm glad that he does. I personally just think like, we're trying to do a good thing here. To try to have, like, our area said that this is just a certain area that we can have. Like, cause in the email, it was like how many parking spots we can have. There's a
Hey,
bevy
Crystal,
of.
he doesn't make the laws.
No, I understand that.
There's a
I'm
whole
just,
pasture
tell
full
me.
of parking spots.
yeah,
mean,
I just
you
don't
could fit
understand.
like 200 cars there.
Like, I just don't understand the need for that. And I really don't understand the need for our barn needing a building permit when we didn't change the barn.
It's not a building permit, it's a site plan review permit.
Yeah.
I thought it's a building permit,
It
Probably
does
falls
say
under
that-
the same-
It does say that, but that's the permit that the town has used.
We don't have two identical forms
No,
Yeah.
for the site review.
so,
No, it's driving, our zoning law drives the site review.
correct.
Well, good, here we are.
Okay. Planning board's your next step, right?
Correct.
And they will pass judgment. We don't really do that here as a planning board.
Okay.
Yeah, but if everything's compliant, they're really,
Well, yeah, that's true.
Right, no, I understand that you guys aren't the ones who, to like really make the rules of this, but you all are very intelligent gentlemen, ladies. I just would like to have somebody explain this a little bit better to me, because I was born and raised here, I truly don't feel the need, I will comply. I just don't understand it.
again, myself, I noticed, because I don't have buildings, that the ag and market laws don't give you much protection the minute you have a building.
You know, it's interesting, because I went to a couple other places who do what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they took a shed that they sell corn and fertilizer out of. They threw 4 or 5 freezers on this end of the building, and that's where they sell their meat out of. They don't live in Stafford, you know, but everybody pulls in one driveway, grabs their meat, they pull out the other driveway.
Well, you know, good example, insurance companies are famous for looking for faults in how you've done your business.
And the insurance company, the
this
one that we
could-
use,
this
Farm
could-
Family, have been there like probably once a
Right.
month. And they have been looking over things, and they have been like, okay, well, we wanna have this be different or this, and we've complied with everything. As far as like, you know, like the floor had some cracks in it, so we, you know, took the cracks out and put some gravel in, you know, just things that
Yeah.
made them happier to make sure that nobody could trip or fall. But like I said, I mean, we've been very compliant, this is just something I just don't agree with. Don't.
Any other further questions about this, comments, discussion? If not, that's the end of the agenda. Steve, what you got?
Nothing, what do you got?
Ryan?
Okay, I was gonna cover this, it came up earlier, the zoning enforcement in towns and village courts. The darn thing, even if you print it two-sided, is like it's about 80 pages long. Barb, if I send this to you, would you route it through to the judges? All right. And then, once the judges see it, then why don't we do copies for all the board members? Because part of the problem is we're getting information third hand, and I'd like to get it first hand from the judges themselves. And then maybe one of them were at this and can give us some insight into what we have to do to move forward to expedite our code violations. The other thing I found, and let me see if I can find the title, is it was an investigation done by a state senator downstate into code enforcement. And what they did they had a nice evaluation criterion where they looked at, all right, what type of documentation are you keeping? What are your strong points? What are your weak points? The only problem is when they got down to what they called a smaller town, which was over 50,000, all they hit on was the fact that they had a breakdown in their system, and it was is a pay for play. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. But I noticed out of all the articles, they have the nicest criterion for evaluating your system. And the same thing with this magistrate's presentation, it offers generic paperwork that is court compliant for your system. So I thought those were a couple of things we want to look at. Let me give you just a second here, see if it comes up on the computer. I didn't run it off, because again, it was another stinking 80-pager. Okay.
Well, I don't know if this is in the same category. Jerry can also prosecute his own things before the judge.
Kenny?
That's what I got this from the judges.
All right, and that's why I brought this presentation in, because I heard the same thing at the meeting, and I'm not quite sure this presentation says that. I want to be sure.
I got this from Bob and Ty.
All right, then maybe he went to this.
I mean, he made it a point, I saw him outside, he made it a point, be sure to tell Jerry, that he does not have to hire an attorney to bring people in front of the court.
Let's get together with it.
Yeah,
I mean, I can point to the spots in there that it's not that clear in their presentation. Well, I like the idea.
Yeah.
I'd like even better if the DA did it.
How much we pay them?
All right, so this is a report from the New York State Senate Committee on Investigating Government Operations. Let's see, just a second here, I'll give you a title for the report. Come on, keep skipping on here. Final investigation reports, code enforcement in New York State, August 5th, 2019. And the biggest thing I like about that is just their evaluation format. That's all.
Okay. Art, you got it? Bob?
Nope.
Jim? Well, why don't we pay the bills and go home? Oh,
You forgot. Can you pay the bills?
yeah, why don't we pay the bills and then we'll go into executive session?
I need to do an executive session later.
Yeah, we'll do that after.
Do this first?
What's that?
You're doing the abstracts first.
Yeah, general fund.
General?
Make a motion to pay general fund 11 for $56,507.38.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Deason, second by Councilman Pacer to pay general fund number 11, abstract number 11, in the amount of $56,507.38. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to pay highway fund 11, $43,549.
Second.
No cents. You're even. You spent a lot of money.
Oh, it's only
We've been on a diet lately, so.
23,000 was for,
Salt?
Yeah.
23,000 for retirement system.
Oh, yeah.
We lost money, so we have to pay more. It'll be a little budget transaction here and beyond.
It's been quite a number, usually they've been
Yeah,
earning more money and our payment was reduced.
well, they made up for it.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Deason made the motion to pay highway fund number 11 in the amount of $43,549. And it was seconded by Councilman Pacer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to pay capital projects number 11 for $6,899.40.
Second.
Part of it's for Water District 12, and for a bond for 12. It's all from number 12, Water District 12.
Motion by Councilman Deason to pay capital projects number 11 in the amount of $6,899.40. Second by Councilman Pacer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Switch to propane.
Oh, from fuel oil?
No, we got a tank of acetylene,
Oh,
$233. No more of that.
well, you just have a straight acetylene tank to heat things up, or?
Well, acetylene, oxygen for torch,
All right.
it's like triple. There's a national shortage.
Yeah, everything's going up.
Imagine such a thing. Usually you gotta call ahead because we might not have it. See, I mean, you don't hear that in the news all, do you?
Supposed to run out of diesel by Thanksgiving too, they're saying.
Not happening.
Not yet.
All right.
I don't know.
And that includes fuel oil for your furnace.
That ain't gonna happen.
It's in the pipe, you just gotta pay.
Yeah, big thing. We're just gonna.
They just wanna scare people, so. So they can jack
Okay,
price
it's
up.
9:45, all the business taken care of, we adjourn and go into executive session at the same